Hello, good evening and welcome to the program. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed. Tonight on the program, we focus on the developments within the polity as Nigeria's seat of power, Abuja, continues to reverberate with discussions where President Ahmed Tinubu is under growing scrutiny over allegations of lopsidedness in terms of appointment that many say tilts in favor of the South at the expense of northern Nigeria. The loudest of these criticisms has come from the Nigerian former Senate Chief Whip, Senator Ali Ndume, who accuses the president of violating the federal character principle, a constitutional provision designed to ensure equitable representation and promote national unity across all 6 geopolitical zones. In response, the presidency released a breakdown of appointments to defend its position, but later admitted to an error in the figures, raising fresh concerns and intensifying the public conversation. Beyond the politics, this debate strikes at the heart of Nigeria's fragile balance, our collective desire for fairness, inclusion, and national cohesion in leadership. Tonight, anti-corruption campaigner Mr. Sunday Amos will be joining the conversation virtually from Yola to help us understand what really is at stake and whether the federal character principle is being upheld in practice. Mr. Sunday Amos, as always, a pleasure. Thank you most kindly for joining us on the program. Good evening to you. All right, it does appear we are yet to establish connection with Mr. Sunday Amos, but of course, all of these conversations have been premised against the backdrop of the recent conversation that is coming out from all the political sides of the equation, from APC to SDP, where the perception is that the Tinubu administration has been favoring the southwestern part of the country, precisely Lagos, for instance, where some of the key positions in government and federal government parastatals and agencies have been dominated by people from Lagos State or perhaps from the southwestern state of the country. But of course, in the data released by the presidency, it did show that while the perception seems to sway public argument in favor of the southwest, they do have some numbers that have made it around in terms of the breakdown. And of course, they had the southwest with 37 appointments, the south with 26, the southeast with 23, the northwest with 44, the northeast with 23, and the north central with 29. And of course, this is all a glance at the 182 federal appointments, which according to the presidency in terms of their breakdown shows that a total of 96 appointments, 96 out of 182 from northern Nigeria, or at least filled by appointees from the northern part of the country, compared to the 86 from the entire south. But if you take a closer look at that breakdown, it does show that the southeast, for instance, and the northeast have the lowest in terms of those political appointments. But then there is the question about the equality of those positions. There are those who are sitting close to power, who are sitting comfortably in quote-unquote juicy positions that does not necessarily equate with the same appointment given to, say, for instance, a minister of state from one particular state who doesn't have much influence in terms of administration or in terms of moving the needle. At least that is the perception of those making the arguments against this particular development. Well, before we establish connection with Mr. Sunday Amos, let's just quickly take a look back at what has been the conversation around federal appointments. As you can imagine, it has become quite the conversation, beginning with the Goodluck administration, because under the Edward administration and the Obasanjo administration touted itself as forming a government of national unity. But let's go back to Goodluck Jonathan before we take a look at the Buhari presidency. From 2010 to 2015, some of the top 10 key positions have been mostly held by the Northwest and then the South. which is where the president comes from. The Southeast had few top positions under the Goodluck administration. In the Southwest and the Northeast didn't have any key individuals in, say for instance, positions that will be considered key positions in government. And then, of course, the North Central, there isn't a lot of data to show what the Goodluck administration has done in that regard. But of course, you can look at the ministerial appointment, which is something that constitutionally has been mandated. Every state will produce a minister, and in typical fashion, the Northwest, the South had 8. Well, not typically, but yes, the Northwest is always one of those regions that has the most number of ministers in any administration so far. And you see the further breakdown of 7 apiece across the Northeast, the Southwest, and the North Central, with the Southeast maintaining 5 ministers across the 5 states in the Southeast of Nigeria. Let's take a look at the Buhari administration and see what the data shows. Under the Buhari administration, cabinet positions, for instance, the Northwest had 9, the Northeast has 7. Remember, there is 6 states across each geopolitical zone, with the exception of the Southeast. The Northeast had 7 ministers, the North Central had 7, the Southwest had 7, likewise the South, and then in the Southeast it had 6 ministers. Remember, Buhari administration had one of the biggest federal executive councils. Now, other federal appointments, 94 of them went to the Northwest, 93 of them went to the Northeast, 102 federal appointments went to the North Central, and 101 went to the Southwest. The South had 99 appointments under the Buhari administration. You can obviously weigh the quality of those appointments looking at what agency or ministry or department of government those appointments were made at. And in these final analysis, the Southeast once again playing catch up with the rest of the country in terms of those federal appointments with 78. Well, so far, what do we know about the Tinubu administration? Let's take a quick look at this breakdown from available data. The Tinubu administration so far, well, the Northwest has 44, which according to the administration has the highest number of appointments so far under the Tinubu administration. Then it is followed by, at least in the North, by the North Central with a strong representation, and then you have the Northeast, which is equal to the Southeast with just 23 federal appointments so far. This includes ministers and agencies of federal government institutions and things like that. The Southwest has 37 federal appointments so far and is the second highest, and of course it comes from the president's home zone, which is the Southwest. Then you have the South with 26, and in total the North has 96, showing that the North still has a majority in terms of federal appointments in the current administration, and the South has a total of 86. But of course the conversation is, how well placed are these appointments, because all fingers are not equal, right? And that's why the conversation has become rather heated, where strategically you look at the placement, you look at the influence or the impact of said ministry, department, or agency, you realize that that is where the argument is coming for against the implementation of federal character, and whether the Tinubu administration is representing the ideals of equity, fairness, and justice in terms of the federal character principle. And that is the bone of contention. That is the clarity that the administration says people need to understand these figures. But of course, the numbers don't necessarily create a full picture of it, because if you have to go down detail by detail, agency by agency, ministry by ministry, you realize that there you can see a clearer picture of which minister is in charge of what. There are some ministries, there are some departments that are much smaller compared to others. There are those who are not necessarily regarded as quite influential because they're in the fringes of an administration. I think we made the point earlier about key positions, and I think that is what some of the argument is entailing, especially if you consider what the likes of Ali Ndume has said recently about the Tinubu administration not necessarily abiding by the ideals or principles of federal character. We also had the SDP 2023 presidential candidate on the program a couple of days ago, where he re-echoed the same sentiment, saying that this is beyond just perception. This is what Nigerians think of the administration in terms of some sectional appointments that does not augur well for Nigeria's democracy and political life. But there's precedent for this. Remember, the Buhari administration, it has had to deal with this label for quite some time about whether it is, fair to every geopolitical zone in the country. And that was how the administration came and went with those allegations, not necessarily answered. And now we have the Tinubu administration dealing with the same accusation, where even people within the ranks of the APC, like the former chief whip of the Nigerian Senate, Senator Ali Ndume, re-echoing those sentiments, saying that if you look at the figures, they don't add up. The accusations, they're saying that Mr. President has not made the right appointments. You look at all of these details vis-a-vis the appointment made so far, they are political appointments. And to quote Senator Ali Ndume, he said, if appointments that are professional, so to say, like you can't appoint someone who is not a soldier to become chief of army staff, or you can't appoint someone who is not a police officer to become the Inspector General of Police. But then when you look at political appointments, the Constitution, as he said, is very clear, and it is because to avoid such infractions that the Constitution of Section 14, subsection 3 states that political appointments should reflect federal character, which is not the case here. This is, of course, to quote Senator Ali Ndume. We do have Mr. Sunday Amos join us virtually from Yola this evening to add value to the conversation by helping us understand and navigate some of these issues as they continue to reverberate in the polity. Mr. Sunday, as always, a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. I wonder where you stand on this one. Federal character, what do you make of it as a principle, and do you think the Tinubu administration is doing its best to abide by it?
Good evening, Abdullahi. Thank you for having me. The little understanding I have about what brought about the whole thing about federal character is to bring about equity, representation, to ensure that no section of the country, is ostensibly marginalized, so to speak, either in appointments, in admissions, in recruitments, and so on and so forth. But if you look at what that has led to, that has sacrificed merit at some point, especially in the beginning. So if, for example, one section of the country does not have people who are qualified, nevertheless, they still have the required number of those who are supposed to fill in a particular gap, whether they are qualified or not. So there are issues even with the federal character, although the spirit behind it is about equity, fairness, either in distribution or recruitment or appointments or something like that. Again, it has come along with issues in the sense that merit is sacrificed. Take, for example, when you talk about cut-off backs, or in those days when they talk about recruitment into the army, you hear about funny stories, whether somebody is qualified or not because he belongs to a particular region to fill in federal character, people are brought in and so on and so forth. So that is the little understanding I have about the issue of federal character. But as far as the Tinubu administration is concerned, and especially when you look at the appointments, there is nothing like federal character. Who even talks about the Federal Character Commission? What you see is appointments that favor the region that the president comes from. And so you find all kinds of anger now The moment somebody is removed, you can almost swear that the next person that will be appointed to replace that person will be a Yoruba person. Then when you see Yoruba, so that people will not talk too much, then they will bring in somebody from one region. And then you see Yoruba, and then you see one person from a different region just to close the mouths of some people who are agitating too much of Yorubanization and so on and so forth. This is what you see. But Abdullahi, I can tell you that you were talking about Ali Ndume. My problem is, where was Ali Ndume when Buhari was doing the same thing? Ali Ndume is a northerner. I am a northerner, that I'm speaking. If it is not sheer hypocrisy, when Buhari was doing the same thing that Tinubu is doing today, where was Ali Ndume? All these quotations of constitution and federal character and this and that, where was Ali Ndume? So when Buhari is doing his own, it is okay because it is favoring him. Now that Tinubu is doing it and is not favoring it, you are all over the place making all sorts of noise. So there is no sincerity. There is no honesty. The whole thing is not from the heart. And that is one of the things that bothers me about all of these things. Ordinarily, you say kudos to him for raising these issues, but it is smeared with hypocrisy, and that is what worries me.
And what do you think is the impact of this ethnic tension? Because beyond just people in power speaking, Nigerians are also making observations about some of these appointments where we jettison the idea of merit. People are not having a conversation around whether this person is qualified to do the job. They focus on his tribal affiliations or orientation. What is the cost on governors if we have to stick to this primordial sentiment? I understand that federal character is supposed to address equity, is supposed to address representation and all that, but are we sacrificing something bigger just to, appear to be an egalitarian society?
What is happening is very bad. What is happening is very sad. What is happening is very unfortunate. It's a shame what is going on. That after all these years, we're still talking about primordial sentiments of ethnicity, of religion. It is saddening, Abdullahi, and it is costing us a lot. The truth of the matter is that in every tribe there are competent people. In every religion there are competent people. So it is an insult when to justify the Muslim ticket, for example, you give the impression that there is no Christian in northern Nigeria who is qualified to occupy the position of vice president. And patented hypocrites like El Rufai will come out and justify it and say all kinds of things just to justify the kind of primordial sentiments they want to promote. So the moment we elevate ethnicity and religion and focus on these things, the only thing that makes sense is the usual game plan of politicians. The moment it is politics, throw the ethnicity card, throw the religious card, and it is the opium of the masses. So the moment you throw ethnicity, if the ethnicity card is favoring us, those of us that are favored by the ethnicity card, like the Yorubas now are being favored by the ethnicity card, and they are all keeping quiet because it is favoring them. Just like it favored the Northerners when Buhari was doing it, and they are keeping quiet. At the end of the day, how does it help us? When Buhari did it, the Northerners kept quiet. They were enjoying it. Hypocrites like Ali Ndume kept quiet. They didn't speak against it because it is their brother who is doing it, and it is favoring the North. And now that it has shifted to the South, the Yorubas are enjoying it, so they are not talking. People like Wole Soyinka have become so pitiful. They no longer have a voice. All the big Yoruba people that came out and said all kinds of things and demonstrated against Jonathan, demonstrated against all of them, now no longer have a voice to speak because they are observing good table manners. It doesn't help the country. So by the time now tomorrow another Northerner comes up and becomes president, then he reverses whatever Tinubu has done. We now go back to northern, maybe northern Muslim. How do we make progress as a people with this kind of thing? How do we make progress as a nation with this tribalism card everywhere and religious card everywhere? it is costing the nation progress. It is costing the nation development. We are sacrificing merit. If I have a problem with rats in my house, rats have infested my house. But for God's sake, if I have a cat who can solve the problem of all the rats and the mice in my house, does it matter whether it is a male cat or a female cat or a Yoruba cat or a Hausa cat? All I want is a cat that will handle the problem of mice in my house. So it's one of the bane, maybe perhaps, Abdullahi, perhaps next to corruption, this matter that we're discussing is the second bane of Nigeria's development. Corruption remains the number one factor, followed by these primordial sentiments of ethnicity and religious sentiments that have affected every sphere of our development life.
Right. A lot of people have, linked what is happening to the president's campaign messaging, especially that rhetoric that he echoed over and over again. Emilokon personalizing pretty much his coming to power, saying that it is his turn, and saying that, listen, he's basically, implementing his version of what it means to lead this country, and people should just get along with that. Do you think that there's some sort of argument there that since he personalized the idea of this is my turn, or at least our turn, to broaden the conversation, that we shouldn't be acting surprised if that is the argument?
Well, Nigeria is not his father's house for him to say it is his turn. What has happened is that among the elites, the political elites, maybe among them they've had a meeting and they have come to some sort of agreement that after this person it is that person, after that person it is this person. It is something that happens in our climb. So maybe that has taken place, and at a point he was feeling threatened that some people were trying to sabotage his own turn, and that's why he came up public to say it is his own turn. It is unfortunate. Leadership is not turn by turn, and it is because of the kind of democracy that we are practicing that somebody can have the audacity to come out and say it is his turn, as if Nigeria is his personal property. But what is the consequence of that? All the hype about he made Lagos, although now we know very well that he didn't make any Lagos. We know now that the whole thing is just about propaganda. But whether he made Lagos or he didn't make Lagos, now the bubble has burst. The man doesn't have ideas. The man doesn't know how to handle Nigeria. It is 2 years now. We have seen the thing becoming worse and worse by the day. He has failed. All his policies have made Nigeria worse. The kind of hunger that we didn't experience even during Buhari. We're experiencing it during Tinubu. And the lousy tour that his son Sheyi went around distributing cooked rice in takeaway packs, that was the height of insult upon Nigerians. Now, who does he think he is? The president's son? Who is the president's son? That you take a private jet moving from state to state distributing cooked rice. But it is that the low level that we have gone to. That's the low level that we have gone to. You see the kind of convoy going from state house to state house, state by state, being received by governors, sharing cooked rice in takeaway packs. But that is supposed to mean what? That it is supposed to mean what? That is the result of the Emilokon that we are saying. So after distributing one pack of cooked rice and you eat it, then what? How has it solved anything? So the Emilokon has not worked. It is his turn. He has done what he can do to climb the seat of president. What has he done with it? What is the result? It is suffering. It is backwardness. It is increase in insecurity of the worst kind. That is what we are experiencing, and it is a shame. It is unfortunate. The thing is not working, sir.
Right. The presidency has shared some numbers with us, some data around presidential or federal appointments so far under the Tinubu administration. They say of the 182 federal appointments that have been made so far, the northern part of the country has garnered a total of 96, the highest in the country. Then the South got 86. Is there a chance that people are misrepresenting the idea of lopsidedness or federal character? Because the presidency is saying, look, even the data shows that the North is favored more. So this argument that Yorubas are dominating the government is simply just not true.
Just bringing out these statistics is a shameful thing. The reason behind bringing out the statistics is because there's a cry, there's an outcry. I mean, why does it even become necessary to bring out statistics like this? Is this something that we should be celebrating to show that the president's appointment is equal or there is equity between the North and the South in this 21st century? You know, but so for me, it is neither here nor there. When you make it so obvious in your appointments, as if there was an imbalance and you need to balance it. Maybe there were too many Northerners, you need to balance it with Yoruba people. Is that governance? So I think it further adds to an indictment upon the government just by further releasing such statistics. And I think it is even more unfortunate.
There's some people who have been sharing their thoughts about this. I mean, Mr. Sunday Dare came out to say people have done the calculations and they say one person was missing out, and that is the President Chief of Staff, and the presidency said, listen, we're going to update these figures and share it with Nigerians. They feel the need to come clean about this perception that they think is swaying the public against the administration. But also there's something underneath that people say, listen, it's not just the numbers, it's the quality of the appointment. Who is in charge of what agency, in charge of what ministry? And there is no equality, so to say, in terms of federal appointment, because some agencies are simply just bigger than others in terms of scope, in terms of mandate, and things like that. Do you think there is a bigger conversation that we need to have around how to implement federal character, or should it just be at the discretion of the president? He can pick and choose whoever he wants for whatever job or task there is to be done.
Of course, the president can pick whoever he wants to do whatever task that he wants done. But I think Nigerians will not be bothered if they are enjoying the dividends of democracy. Nobody will be bothered about whether it is Yoruba, or it is a Hausa person, or it is a Bagi person who is appointed, if the result of their appointments is good for the masses. If this level of poverty is reduced, transportation reduced, electricity cost reduced, insecurity reduced, but as long as none of this is the result of all of these appointments, we will continue to complain. So whether you have 50 from the North and 50 from the South, has that resulted in a better life for Nigerians? So even if it is 50-50, how has that helped Nigerians? Whether it is 70-30, how has that helped Nigerians? So it is really immaterial. The discussion is meaningless if at the end of the day, the suffering of the masses is what is worrying the people. So I think it's a distraction that government is very good at doing by throwing out these figures. Because the issues on ground are the fact that Nigerians are suffering. So it doesn't matter whether it is 50-50 or 70-30 or 20-80 or 60-40. It doesn't really matter. And Nigerians will really not have bothered if the policies of this government have resulted, in a better life for Nigerians. But the level of suffering, the level of insecurity that we are passing through in this country, and you are coming to tell us it is 50-50. How does that help us? Abdullahi, how does that help us?
Right. Also, there is something to look at, historically speaking. We're talking about historical imbalances. Let's just run through some of the data again. We shared it from the Goodluck administration to the Buhari administration to the Tinubu administration. There seems to be some level of consistency. If we can just show the graphic. I want to make a point of one particular reason. There are 6 geopolitical regions or zones in Nigeria. Look at the southeast, right? 5 ministers, lowest. Fast forward to the Buhari administration. How many did they get? They got 6 under the Buhari administration, right? still one of the fewest in terms of the development. All right, there you have it. 6. It actually is the lowest. There are 5 states, and it also has the lowest in terms of federal appointment with 78, when the North Central and the Southwest, for instance, got 102 and 101 appointments. Every other region, I beg your pardon, got a lot more. What about the Tinubu administration so far? Let's take a look at the data and what it says about the Southeast. Right, there you have it, the Southeast, 23, equal to the Northeast. So, my question to you, Mr. Sunday, is this. When people say Nigeria has an Igbo problem, in the sense that politically speaking, in terms of representation, the Igbos always feel marginalized. Do you think this data shows it? Because consecutively, even under Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, who is from the South, they've not necessarily enjoyed the kind of political favors in terms of appointment as most of the other regions. Is this something noteworthy to you?
Oh, yes, it is. The Igbos have suffered marginalization. It is very, very true. Since the Biafran War till today, it's like, for example, we say an Igbo man cannot be president. It's like there are certain posts that is taboo, a no-go area for an Igbo man. And it is not good for the country. It's not good for the country. But my worry is that if tomorrow an Igbo man eventually becomes president, then he toes the same line of this thing that we are complaining about. We now have Igbo. It's like, okay, now it is our turn. So let us make sure that all the years of marginalization, we make it up and balance the equation. How will that help the country? It is very sad and unfortunate that we are spending time talking about ethnicity and religion. I mean, look at the US. We'll go back to the US again, Abdullahi. We had George Bush Sr., who was president. The Americans didn't bother. His son also became president. If now for Nigeria, we go talk, say, Papa become president, Pikin one become president, now only them there for this country. But Americans didn't bother. These matters are non-issues in the US. They look at who will deliver. Why can't we also look at who will deliver? Why has ethnicity and religion held us by the jugular? And it's always like the national cake. Make my brother also there, so that our own is also there. And unless we wean ourselves from this level of thinking, we will continue to remain stuck where we are today. No matter how criminal our own is, it is better that it is our criminal than another person's criminal. There will always be a protector as long as it is our own. Ethnic religion, ethnicity religion. So we are discussing this. Our politicians understand this. Tinubu understands this. And so when he brings out statistics to show that the North is not marginalized, then the North is assuaged. When he shows statistics that the Igbos are not marginalized, those statistics maybe would assuage the Igbos. But at the end, whether it is 50-50, how does that improve the life of the ordinary person in Nigeria? Unless and until an appointment improves the life of a Nigerian, then that appointment is of no consequence. Those statistics are of no consequence. As long as you cannot travel with your heart located where God put it, but your heart is now in your mouth, you are afraid to travel. Your loved one is the moment your loved one enters taxi, you are not at rest until he sends a text that he has arrived. Abdullahi, if my child is going to ABU, when he leaves Yola, he goes to Numan, he sends a text, we are now in Numan. He goes to Gombe, he sends another text. Al-Kaleri, he sends another text. Till he reaches ABU, then my heart is at rest. What kind of country is that? How does those appointments matter to me? So honestly, I see it as a deliberate distraction that politicians are very good at, distracting us from the main issues, and that is failure to deliver the dividends of democracy that we can hold them accountable to. And that is going on, that is at play here for all that I see.
And do you feel that this is signposting a deeper social disconnection in terms of the fabric that is Nigeria, for instance, where there's always this perceived fear of domination us versus them. I mean, we're all Nigerians, but we're also Christians and Muslims. We're also different ethnic groups. So there's always this sense that we are constantly in a battle for supremacy, so to say. Do you think the politicians are leaning into that? And is that why this conversation refuses to go away? Because the argument is never about unqualified people put in a position. It's always about their religion or their ethnicity. So people don't necessarily even want to make an issue about their pedigree, about their qualification, about their expertise, and whether or not they're capable of solving the problem. They're always talking about where they come from and how they worship.
You are right. You are right. For all intents and purposes, what the evidence on ground is that when our own is there, he will do for us. That is what we see. And and this is real. This is very real. And so the concerns are not unfounded. Let me give you a very good evidence. This CNG, this compressed natural gas, this thing. Somebody brought out statistics. I was looking at it on WhatsApp. He said in Lagos, there are how many CNG points in Ibadan? And he mentioned some other states in the southwest where there are CNG points, 11 here, 28 there, and so on and so forth, with Lagos having the highest. So a number of states in the southwest that have this compressed natural gas points where people can have access to them, but none in the entire 19 northern states. None. That should worry anybody. It's not fair. And that is why the northerners will hold on to it and say, this is what we are talking about. Whoever is in charge of that thing, how can they do that kind of implementation? It is expected that simultaneously there should be points all over the 6 geopolitical zones. Just for the same reason of giving people or quieting the hearts of people to let them know that government is not interested in marginalization. But you have a situation where something as important as CNG, we only have it in Lagos, in Ibadan, in Osun, only in the southwest, and in the entire 19 northern states, not a single point. So it fuels the accusation and the belief that when your own is there, he will do for your own people. And when another person also comes, he will now do for his own people. It is lack of good governance that has brought all of that. When we have a president, a truly national president, who comes on board and truly delivers in an equitable manner the dividends of democracy, that is when it will quiet down and kill this notion. But as long as a Tinubu comes along, he does only for the southwest. A Buhari comes along, he does only for the north. Tomorrow an Igbo man comes along, he does only for the southeast. Then we will not live where we are presently.
Right. Just on that CNG point, I think some of the concerns you've raised there have been clarified to a point where, yes, there might not be as sufficient CNG conversion centers or refueling stations in the southwest, but there are quite a significant number of them in northern Nigeria, especially, I mean, in the Federal Capital Territory, where we consider it a part of North Central. So, yes.
Come on, Abdullahi, you can't, when we're talking about northern Nigeria, you can't talk about Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory. If you don't have a CNG point in Abuja, where will you have it again? But we're talking about northern Nigeria.
But the point
you mentioned Lagos, you mentioned Ibadan, you mentioned all these states in the southwest, and you can't mention one single state in the entire 19 northern states except Abuja. How is that acceptable?
I believe there is also an installation in Kaduna, and I also think the one in Maiduguri is coming up soon. I think we've done a couple of reporting there, but I think your point about inequitable distribution is well made. But talk to me about this idea of the governance structure looking to inspire national unity. I mean, we've become accustomed to listening to this argument of government of national unity, where the Obasanjo administration, for instance, worked with people from different political backgrounds to give everybody a sense of belonging in the government. So whether you're an opposition voice, you might be given a chance. The Tinubu administration is talking about a national charter because it says, the administration says, it is concerned about the unity of this nation. Do you think this is one of those situations that they need to work on so that it's not just being done behind the scenes? People have to believe that equity, fairness, and justice is something they can feel, they can touch, and they can ascribe to in terms of who the people in power are.
The Obasanjo administration had the semblance, a little semblance of the kind of a government of national unity that we're talking about. It was interested in bringing technocrats and so on and so forth. It had that semblance. But the Tinubu administration does not have the moral authority to even talk about anything national. From ab initio that they came on board with a Muslim ticket. From that foundation alone, they shouldn't be talking about anything like that, because they started by insulting the Christians, giving them the impression that no single Christian is worthy to become or is qualified to become a vice president. Now, the appointments came with like a flood of Yoruba, and we are now talking about Yorubanization. In fact, the discussion in northern Nigeria is that Tinubu is preparing for a southwest secession. The Oduduwa Republic thing and all these agitations by Sunday Igboho and the rest, that Tinubu is preparing. That's why he's moving the headquarters of certain ministries back to Lagos and this and that. Whether it is founded or not founded, I don't know. But these are the allegations that are going on around.
Yeah, these are Mr. Sunday,
the allegations, they may be founded or not founded. Yeah. But what I'm saying is that the way he has started and the way he has been going with his appointments is what is fueling these accusations and allegations. So when I hear you talking that they are talking about something about unity or about equity, none of them have the moral authority to talk about it, and nobody will believe them. Personally, I don't believe them.
So, is this just, are we looking at this whole thing wrong? Because I did ask a question earlier that there's this hyper-focus on the socio-cultural identities of the people running these agencies of government and not much focus on what have they been able to do to get the job done. And perhaps if we focus on how they're able to get the job done, then it wouldn't matter whether they're Yoruba or they're Hausa or they're Fulani or they're Ijo or Igbos or whatever ethnicity. Do we not also have a responsibility to look at their track record so that it can dispel these concerns?
Yeah, but we have been looking at their track record, Abdullahi. We have been looking at their track record. We have been looking at their performance. We have been looking at what they have been doing since they have been appointed. We have been looking at the result of their appointment. And the verdict is that they have failed woefully. And that is why attention is now turning to their ethnicity. Because honestly, if they had succeeded, if today, on day one of your swearing in, you say subsidy is gone, then the proceeds of subsidy ought to have been utilized to make life better for Nigerians. But from that first day till today that you and I are talking, go to the streets and ask the ordinary Nigerian. Go to Plateau State. How many people died just how many days ago? Tiga, a general, a retired general, as he was kidnapped, and despite the payment of ransom, was still held for still a number of days before he was released. A retired general and retired generals contributed money to pay for his ransom. I mean, if a retired general can be kidnapped in his house, and generals are paying ransom to have him free, our situation is hopeless. So we have been looking at their performance, Abdullahi. The general verdict is that they have failed. The country is worse off despite their appointment. Evidence is there everywhere. It's not Yusuf Amos that is talking. So maybe that is why attention has now turned to their ethnicity and where they are coming from. And we're saying that maybe they sacrificed merit and brought ethnicity. That's why they have failed. But we have been looking at their performance. And they have been found wanting. They have been weighed in the scales and they have been found wanting. That is the verdict of Nigerians.
Looking at the track record, I mean, we showed what happened with the Goodluck administration. Yes, there wasn't such a public outcry about it, but yes, it did show that two regions enjoyed, in terms of key positions, for the most part, under the Goodluck administration. There is the Northwest and the South where the president comes from. Under the Buhari administration, significantly, it's the Northwest again and the Southwest. Now we're talking about the Northwest and the Southwest enjoying the bulk of those positions. Is it safe to say that this is something that we have to get used to? Because you did express that concern about whoever comes next. We shouldn't be surprised if he wants to work with, people from his region or people from his tribe, because let's be honest, they work at the pleasure of the president who has the mandate of the people. Is there something that we have to just get used to? That there can never be fairness in the way we expect it to be?
No, we need to keep demanding for the right thing to be done. We need to keep demanding for the right thing to be done. We are not going to get a situation whereby, take for example the 6 geopolitical zones. If there are appointments, you have 30, then that is equity. No, we're not going to get that. And that's not what we're even talking about. And of course, there are people whom the president has to be comfortable with, either in his inner circle or, but generally speaking, let there be a semblance of equity. Let there be a semblance of national consideration. Let there be a semblance of federal character in your appointments. Let there be a situation where everybody from every section of the country, and mind you, you cannot compare, if you take population-wise, for example, and say one local government in Bayelsa will be equal to one local government in Kano, and so on and so forth. Definitely there will be little differences here and there. That is not what we are talking about. But we are saying let there be a semblance, a situation where everybody across the country will look at the spread of appointments and say, yes, this man try. Yes, this man try. When you have that kind of situation, at least you eliminate allegations and complaints. And we now hold to task such people that have been appointed. Now that he has been able to give a semblance of equity in his appointments, we now hold the people to account. And if we hold them to account, their performance should result to a better life on the ground. The dog was asked about the party taking place in their house, and he said he wants to see it on the ground. So this is what we are talking about, Abdullahi. The president has the leverage to choose who he wants to work with, and we're not talking about a 2020 kind of situation before we can clap for the president and say there's equity. But at least let there be a semblance of equity across the nation to douse these prevalent, perennial accusations of marginalizations that have been on ground perpetually in every administration.
Do you expect, and finally, just before we wrap things up, do you expect the Tinubu administration to change its approach to some of these appointments, or do you think Nigerians can have their say while the Tinubu administration continues to have its way?
This is a difficult question for me to answer, Abdullahi. I really don't know.
But do you expect the administration to change?
I don't know. I hope it changes. But I don't know. I don't see it. But I hope so.
All right.
I hope so. I don't see it, but I hope so.
I think it's instrumental that you're using a word that the Tinubu administration is using as its manifesto, renewed hope. And let's see where this one goes. Mr. Amos Yusuf Sunday, as always, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate the analysis. Thank you so much for your time this evening.
Always a pleasure, Abdullahi. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. And of course, as always, thank you most kindly for your time and company. Daily Politics returns tomorrow live at 8 p.m. exclusive as always on Trust TV. I'm Abdullahi Ahmed. For myself and the rest of the team, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.